Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Academies Corner. Academy here. If you're seeing my face for the first time, you're absolutely welcome to my channel, and I do hope that before you leave, you consider subscribing and just press that subscribe button right below. And if you're an OG on this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. So guys, I put up a post in my community tab asking if you guys had any questions about PLAB, all that stuff, becoming a qualified UK doctor. And I did get a number of questions. Well, and I've also gotten some questions in the comment sections of my old videos, which is why I have decided to do this video today titled How to Become a Qualified UK Doctor. I'm just basically going to be talking through all of the steps. I did get some questions as well about cost implications, and I just thought it would be best if I do that in a completely separate video, so I don't try to put too much into one video. So I'll be going through all the steps and also going through my tips that I used to pass my exam, because I got some questions about materials to use to study, what academy did I go for PLAB 2. So all that stuff I'm going to answer in this video. So if this is what you would like to watch, definitely keep on watching. Thank you. So in the UK, the governing body for doctors is called the General Medical Council. The way in Nigeria, we have MDCN, Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. So the first major step is to create an account on GMC online. GMC is General Medical Council. So when you create an account, then you can go ahead to do the next things, right? And the first thing in terms of exams is to do the English speaking exam. For the test of English language, there are two major exams. There's the IELTS and then there's the OET. I know IELTS is the common one that most people do, and bear in mind that for doctors and nurses, for working, basically you have to do the academic one, not the general one. And I'll just quickly talk through IELTS, quickly talk through my tips, and on the other end, talk to OET. I don't know so much about OET, but I've also heard that it's got a good pass rate in comparison with IELTS, and I think that's because for OET, it's more like healthcare specific from what I've heard. So for IELTS, it basically involves four major arms, and there are two governing bodies for IELTS. There's the British Council, and then there's the IDP. I did the IDP because at the time I was told that IDP was simpler than British Council. I don't know how true that is, so please don't quote me, but I did IDP and thankfully I passed my exams at once. So for doctors, you need to pass minimum of 7.0 in each area and minimum of 7.5 overall to be able to qualify to do the next exams, right? So we have four major parts of IELTS. I'm sure you guys already probably even know this. So there's the speaking, there's the listening, there's the reading, there's the writing. And what I found that really helped me with, or what I found to have been really helpful for me for the IELTS exam, was just to kind of hone down on the area of my weakness, if you get what I mean. So I spent more time on reading and writing because I knew that those areas were the tougher areas for me. Might be different for you. If you feel like speaking, listening is harder, then I would advise that, go through the simpler one for you first, get comfortable with the simpler one, and then spend more time going through the harder part. And I've done IELTS before. I did IELTS because I must have mentioned in one of my videos on how I got into medical school that I did A-levels. After my A-levels back in 2012, I did IELTS at the time. So I did have an idea of what the exam is like. So like I said, for me, speaking, listening were relatively easier. I just kind of just brushed up on what I needed to know, and then I spent more time, more especially on writing. Reading wasn't too much of a big deal for me. Once I got a hang of it, it was easier. So writing, I knew was going to be difficult. I just spent a lot of time understanding what they needed from me for the exam. And I would say the materials that really helped me, IELTS Live here on YouTube, also E2 IELTS, their videos were very, very helpful. So for IELTS Live, I used her videos and her website, went through all of the examples as much as possible, especially for writing. And to be honest, I didn't really practice writing myself so much because I didn't have so much time to prepare for my exam, and I just felt like I wanted to read through people's writings first and just understand, what I needed to do. And I just felt like writing actual essays would have been time wasting for me. But again, it's different for all of us. So just do what's best for you. And there are also group chats. There are people who organize tutorials who would read through your writings and mark them. So just when you get the materials, read through them and decide, what's the best option. If you want to use YouTube, content that's available, or if you want to, pay for a class to get better support and get better hang of it all. So that's my top tip for IELTS. For OET, I've heard again that's relatively easier to pass. I think there are also like tutorials for OET. For OET, I don't know. I'm not very sure what the criteria for passing is. I think it's minimum of B in all, but I'll confirm and then put that on the screen. So that's the first step, really. That's the major first exam. The first thing is to pass your IELTS. And another thing I was supposed to mention at the beginning is to say that the most important thing is just to make sure that your medical school is recognized by GMC. And I think most medical schools are. So if you go on the GMC online website, they have like a list of medical schools for different country, and then you get asked what your medical school is, at the beginning of your registration and all of that. So once you pass your IELTS, congratulations, then it's time to book PLAB 1 exam. And PLAB 1 is typically done 4 times a year. So there's February, there's May, there's August, and there's November. I did mine in November when I did mine. And typically, bookings for exams usually come out in about a year in advance. I'll say about a year to 6 months. I'm not really sure how things work now, but I know that they release dates like in advance. So the advice is to just properly plan. If you think that you want to do the UK route, then once you're finishing medical school, start thinking of your IELTS and, so you can book, because again, it's not something that you can easily book and say, oh, I'm going to do this in 2 weeks. And then it's not like USMLE. You have to plan and pass your IELTS and then be able to book PLAB 1. So yeah, so for PLAB 1 is multiple choice. You have 180 questions and you have 180 minutes, so it's literally like one question per minute. Of course, some questions will take you like less than a minute, some will take you longer than a minute, so you kind of just learn how to compensate. And one of the biggest tips you need for your PLAB 1 exam, besides the stuff, reading and all of that stuff, is time management, because again, 180 questions, 180 minutes, it's not a lot of time. So for me, the top tips I would say helped me with my PLAB 1 exam were: one, WhatsApp group chat. So we did have like a group chat where we kind of like go through questions, like somebody would be putting up questions from like PLAB keys or PLABable and some other materials from PLAB preparation, and we kind of just go through. It's pretty much the same like reading by yourself, but it just makes things a bit faster, and it kind of helps you also know, oh my gosh, I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know this, and you're kind of like motivated to build up and like go back and study more seriously. So WhatsApp group chat or Telegram, whichever really helps. Then for personal study, I use the PLABable app. So I subscribe for PLABable and GEMS. So GEMS kind of like gives a summary, not like a summary, but like more like an in-depth explanation of each area. So PLAB covers like every aspect of medicine. So you're getting neurology, cardiology, surgery, like gen surge, orthopedic surge, ENT, ophthalmology. It basically covers everything, but it doesn't cover like anatomy, biochemistry. It doesn't cover like basic medical sciences, but every aspect of clinical medicine. So you have to be vast in everything, as much as possible. Go through everything, because chances are your 180 questions will come from everywhere. Sometimes no, sometimes they would focus, maybe like you can have like 5 questions from one area and then one area won't have a question. But the point is, you need to basically read through the entire thing. So I use PLABable GEMS and then PLABable questions. So what I would do is when I read one thing, for example, if I read pediatrics, I'll go ahead and do the questions for pediatrics as well, just to consolidate, what I've learned. And I try to go through, I believe, the GEMS twice, and also did like some, really fast-paced revision also prior to the exam. And PLABable also has mocks. I think right now they've got 21. Personally, I didn't complete all the mocks because I try my best to not give room for things that would discourage me before an exam. So if I feel like something's not really going to help, I don't do it. But that's me personally. So I didn't really do mocks. I probably just like 1 or 2. And I didn't have very good scores, maybe 70%, but it wasn't up to 80%. And I remember seeing in the group chat where somebody was saying, oh, if you're getting like greater than 80%, then it means that, oh, you have a high chance of passing. And I was just here thinking to myself, hey, I'm not getting it to 80%. So I basically didn't want that to discourage me, so I kind of didn't really do mocks, but that might not be a very good advice, so please don't take that. If you feel like mocks will be very helpful for you, then go ahead, by all means, please do mocks. So yeah, other materials available, I know there's PLAB keys. I think those are the 2 major ones that I know people use, PLAB keys and PLABable, and then people use like group chats to substitute for other materials that may be available. Then finally, you passed your PLAB 1, congratulations, now you want to book your PLAB 2 exam. So for PLAB 2 is a bit more technical, but then it's also um, so PLAB 2 is a bit more technical, but it kind of is a follow up from PLAB 1. So PLAB 2, if you've gone to medical school, obviously you are familiar with what we call OSCE, which is kind of like you have a station, you have a patient simulating, you get to ask questions, you're expected to make a diagnosis and come up with a plan. So that's what happens in PLAB 2. In PLAB 2, I believe you have 16 stations. Yes, you have 16 stations and then 2 rest stations, so in total 18. I think before COVID it was more than that, but at the moment it's 16 stations and then 2 rest stations, so a total of 18. And in one station you have 8 minutes. I would reconfirm that in case I'm saying something wrong. But yes, you have 8 minutes, and in 8 minutes, you're expected to introduce yourself to your patient, take a history from the patient, come up with a diagnosis, come up with a treatment plan, and communicate all of that to the patient as well. So for PLAB 2, usually the advice is to register for something called an academy. And an academy basically is, where you go to, it's like a mini school where they teach you what you need to know, take you through the common stations, and stations could come from anywhere. So usually they would come as an offshoot of PLAB 1. Usually it will come from like a case, obviously from what you have read in your PLAB 1. So stations could come from anywhere, but could come in different forms. So there are some questions where it's like what I've explained, where you have a clinical scenario to actually like take a history. Some other sessions, it will be ethics, where you have like a scenario whereby somebody is refusing treatment and you need to let them, talk to them and see why that's happening. Some stations, it could be that you're expected to teach somebody how to use something, which could be like teach a medical student how to give a subcutaneous injection, or teach a patient how to use their insulin, or you could have a station where you're expected to do a procedure where it could be a case of, oh, this patient has come in with urinary retention, and then you have to pass a urethral catheter. What other examples? We also have something called Siemens, where you have a simulation mannequin, where you're expected to put into action the A to E of resuscitation. So you're expected to go there, introduce yourself, and then do the whole A to E, check the airway, check the breathing, check the circulation. So in every exam, you would always have that mix. You have like the entire clinical scenario, you have a teaching session, you have a counseling session, you have an ethics station, you have a Siemens, and it could vary. You could have like maybe 5 clinicals, and then most times always 1 Siemens, but I've heard people who've had more than 1. So the advice is just to kind of prepare for anything, because you could really meet anything in the exam. So that's usually how PLAB 2 goes, and then you get scored, per station, and you get scored you get 4 marks for each section. So each section is a total of 12 marks, and there are 3 sections. There's history, there's management, and then there is interpersonal skills. So that's how you communicate with the patient. So like, for example, you're speaking to a patient who you're breaking bad news to, how well are you showing empathy? Or any situation at all, how well are you showing empathy to your patient, really? So IPS is very, very important. That's what is commonly called. So you hear people when they are practicing for PLAB 2 talk a lot about IPS and how you need to be like very cautious when you're speaking. Like, oh hi, my name is Dr. So and so. Can I know your name, please? Oh, thank you for telling me that. Right. So you just hear like lots of cautious conversations when people are preparing for PLAB 2, because IPS carries 4 marks over 12. So if you can get 4 in IPS, then chances are you would have already done so well, right? And so for PLAB 2, just before I forget, I'll just talk about the scoring system for the exam. So usually to pass PLAB 2, there are 2 things that are considered. One being that you have to get a minimum total score. So based on the general performance, they would decide on a minimum score that every candidate should get to be able to pass. And also you have to pass a particular number of stations. I believe it's 11 stations. So if somebody should pass 11 stations but not get the total score expected, the person will still fail. So there are 2 criteria really: pass more than 11, either 10 or 11. I would confirm and I'll put a comment here. So either 10 or 11, and then also get the minimum score expected based off of, and they always get that score based off of everybody's performance. And that's based off of, because there are different centers for PLAB 2 in Manchester. There's Hardman Square and there's Hardman Street. So they always do that cutoff based on your day and your center. So it's not like a general, they're not trying to be mean, but they do it based off of who you've come to exam with. So the general advice is always to make sure that you try as much as possible to practice for the exam with people that are writing the exam around your date or on the same day, because it then means that you guys can exchange knowledge and you guys know the same things while going into exam. Now, going into academy for PLAB, so there are several academies. The most popular ones that Nigerians use are Samson's and Key Point. But then there's also Aspire, there's also Aurora in the UK. But Samson's, you can do it online and you can do it physically in Lagos, Nigeria, if you're in Nigeria. So I did mine in Lagos, 2 weeks. So you do 2 weeks in Lagos or online, and then when you come to Manchester for your exam as well, you have access to come to the academy and practice with people and use the mannequins and then do your 3 mocks. So Samson's package is 2 weeks of teachings, which can be either be online or physically, unlimited access to the academy, and then 3 mock exams before your main exam. And then for the mock exams, you get your score. You don't really get a feedback. I don't know if that has changed, but during my time, I didn't really get a feedback. I only got feedback while still in the exam. If I finish like my exam before my time, then sometimes the invigilators would like give me a feedback and say, oh, this was nice, or oh, you need to improve on this and all that stuff. Or even sometimes after the exam, if I see some of them like downstairs or anything, sometimes I'll go to them and ask, just in case you can remember me, do you have any feedback for me, that kind of stuff. So that's my top tip. Those are things I have to share about PLAB. So if you still have any question I haven't covered, just ask them below. I'm trying to remember if I've forgotten anything I need to share about PLAB too, but I think that's the major thing I want you guys to know. So moving on, you've passed PLAB 1, you've passed PLAB 2, congratulations, you are officially done with all of the exams you need to do, at least to get your GMC license. So the next thing after that is then to do something called epic verification, which is basically to verify your certificates to say, oh, you know, I indeed went to this medical school. My certificate is not real, it's real. I didn't forge it or anything like that. So there's a website for Epic where you upload your certificates and they contact your medical school and then they verify, they give you like a number which you then put in when you're eventually, you know, registering for your license. Then the other thing you need is something called Certificate of Good Standing from Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Again, I'm still going to do a separate video where I kind of go into like the cost of all of these things I'm mentioning, but this is just to give an overview of what you actually need. So I've said IELTS, PLAB 1, PLAB 2, Certificate of Good Standing, epic verification of your certificate. And then when you submit all of that, I believe, yeah, if you're, another thing that you're going to have to submit again when you're doing your GMC license is also the MDCN form that we fill at the end of house job in Nigeria. So the form F, is it? I can't remember, but there's a form that you basically submit and then you get your license. Once you get your license, then the next process is job hunting, which can be very intense. Like I've shared with you guys, my job hunting process was a very intense one. But the websites that are commonly used for job hunting, we have Track Jobs, which is what I use, and I kept on getting unfortunately, right? And then there's the NHS Jobs, and then there is the Beta NHS Jobs, which is beta.nhs. I just wanted to also mention in this video that because of the job hunting process, which is taking so long now, there is the option to also get into training directly from like overseas into the UK. And commonly for GP, psychiatry, anesthetics, ED, O&G, depending on what you want to do. It might be a bit more difficult for radiology, anesthetics, O&G because I think they require portfolio. But for GP and psych, they do not require portfolio, so it's becoming more popular now. You can take the MSRA exam. If you literally just put it in Google, MSRA exam, you just need to set up an account with Oriel, and then you can book the exam when it's time. So there are usually 2 batches every year. The first batch was done in January for resumption in August. There's going to be another exam in September for resumption in February. So if you're seeing this now and you're still job hunting and you're wondering what to do, that's an option. But bear in mind that the February slots are significantly lesser than the intakes in August. So August is like the major intake for the year, and then February is like the offshoot of that, of, you know, it's to fill up kind of like the spaces that are left from the first round, or like to fill up the spaces that are left from those who are advancing from, you know, whether their jobs to another training pathway or, you know, finishing training and their empty spaces basically. So that's basically what it entails to become a qualified UK doctor. I know I've literally summarized all of this in about 20 minutes, Of course, it's not going to take 20 minutes for all these things to happen, but just know that it's doable and I'm out here rooting for you. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you've got any questions, please ask down below in the comment section. If you have any clarifications as well, I will respond in the comment section below. And I will see you guys again soon with the video on cost implication and all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.